Dad, welcome to the 20-something podcast.
Oh, I'm so delighted to be here, Bex.
Good. So my dad is an amazing dad, granddad, entrepreneur and former business owner. Over the years, he's built up a wealth of knowledge and some great life advice. I know this is the 20-something podcast and I normally have guests that are in their 20s or just over, but I thought it'd be really good to have a different experience and to get my dad on. He's always given me loads of life advice, so I thought, why not share it with all of you? So yeah, Dad, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Bex.
How are you doing?
Oh, good. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't often sit in front of... I only knew what a podcast was a few weeks ago. And now to find out I've got cameras and this thing in front of me, but we'll give it a good go.
There you go. Exactly. I mean, I'm sure you can do it. You've succeeded in many things, so you'll be able to do this. So with all of my guests, Dad, I take it back to the beginning and just ask to give an overview of your 20s. I know for you it was a fair while ago, not too long ago.
42 years ago.
42 years ago. But yeah, just give us a bit of a backstory to you. Introduce yourself to the podcast and yeah, give us a backstory into your 20s.
Well, I can hardly remember sometimes what I did a few weeks ago, never mind 42 years ago. But I thought I would start off really to give a little bit about the background as to what sort of gave us a little bit fire in the belly to do what we did and how we had to be independent. My parents got married at 20 and they had 8 children. And we lived in a small 3-bedroom house and we had bunk beds. Mm-hmm. So the girls were in one room and the boys in the other, 4 and 4. My parents then decided with some income, they built a little extension and they rented that part of the extension. But when we were 13, we obviously, as we got bigger, we needed more room. And my parents bought an 8-bedroom house in Ealing Broadway in an auction that they often called the haunted house. And we moved into that house and we didn't all have a bedroom each. We shared bedrooms still because my mum had the rent to pay for the mortgage. And in the early 70s, my father had a lovely business, civil engineering, and things were working out okay. And then the big crash come. So basically, he lost the business. And we had people calling around the house looking for money. And it was a bit of a worrying time. But we literally had no money. So what we had to do, when I was 13, I had my first milk round. I did my paper round in the evenings on Friday. I cleaned cars. And then I also got a job when I come back from the milk round delivering vegetables on a bike. And what that basically meant, because literally we had no money, my parents couldn't buy us clothes. I could go out and I could buy my own clothes and it was a great feeling. And it was the first time I thought, you know what, I can make some money here and be in control of what I wanted to do. My sisters were the same. We talked about this when we were away last week, how they all worked. If they needed money, then that's how they got it. When I was 14, I started working for my father. He set up a little business, a small construction company. And I started working at the weekends and I was doing electrical work, plumbing works, which I know you can't do now because you have to certify it. I was putting on roofs and literally by the time I was 15 working every weekend and I started saving up money. Mm-hmm. And it just gave me that great independence and being in control of what I wanted to do. I remember buying my first 2-tone trousers, my Dr. Barton boots, and I remember I bought myself a watch. It was the watches that you wouldn't know now where you could touch the button and the light would come on.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to go to school like this, look at my watch and everything else. And that was a great feeling. But my mum still had to rent the rooms and it took a long time before we all got our own room. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what was a little bit of background into kind of having to earn, and I knew that I could do it from that young age. So then as I was getting older, I was at that age, I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do when I left school. And I thought a lot about it from kind of the age of 14, and I loved the building, but I always wanted to be a pilot. So what it made me do was work hard at school, and I ended up getting 7 O-levels, which in them days was a lot. Mm-hmm. And very few people went to university. And so I had to think now, do I go to university or do I go into a trade, into the building that I loved? I ended up getting an apprenticeship and with John Lang's, and that was a great company to go and work for. So I thought I was going to give it 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. If I didn't like it, then I was going to go back to school. And I loved it. It was kind of a hobby to me. in the construction industry. So that's what I ended up doing. And hence, I don't fly planes. One day I want to buy one. But right the way through, so I started off thinking went early what I was going to do. And so I worked in my apprenticeship. It also, because I started having a trade, I worked at weekends. Again, I learned that I could save up a little bit of money, and that's what I did. So we still lived at home. I was earning money. And one day I thought, you know what, I'm making it in life. And so I went home to my mum and I said, look, I'm going to buy this Ford Capri car. It was beautiful. And look at this, it's going to be great. And, you know, if you want to go picking up girls or go out showing off. So my mum's, that's lovely. She said, so when are you moving out? And I said, no, I'm buying a car. I'm not moving out. She goes, no, if you buy a car, then you're moving out. You go and sleep in the car if you want. If not, you're going to buy a house. So I thought about it. So in the end, myself and my brother, we went to the Allied Irish Bank and I took the £2,000 that I had saved and we bought our first house and I was 20.
Wow.
And we rented that house because my mum said, you live in that house, you won't make the money, you rent it and you go and you buy yourself another one. So really at the age of 20, I had one at 22, myself and my brother had our second house, but we rented them and that gave us a nice little bit of an income. I knew that one day I wouldn't want to carry working on the tools, so I decided to do a 5-year extended course, which was like a degree, because I always wanted to get that further education. So I did study for the Chartered Institute of Building. And in that time, I worked pretty hard and sort of saved up. And then, of course, at 24, I'm thinking, you know, I've got to get married. I had lovely Mary at 16. And everyone is going to get married and to have children. So we were thinking about that. But I also was thinking, you know, you've saved up a little bit of money, but and money's not everything, but I wanted a plan. But I always wanted to travel. Me and Mary traveled a little bit in Europe. And I came up with this great idea. Why don't we just work, save up enough money, and let's go and have a honeymoon for 1 year. So that was part of my plan, that I had to study, get my Chartered Institute build. And so when I come back, I had something that I could fall back on and that we could have a good time and travel. So very few people traveled on honeymoon for more than 2 weeks. And so I took my exams. Mary worked 3 jobs. I had like 5 jobs, literally every evening, Saturdays, Sundays, and we saved like hell. And off we went. And that was a great thing to do because we kind of wanted to have, as I said, children when we come back. The 1 year would be nice. And off we went. And if you think when we travelled, there was none of this as you have today, social media.
Yeah.
You had no mobile phones. You had no bank account. When we travelled, we had what was called traveller's checks, where you just put them into a money belt, you travelled with them, and when you got to a bank in a country, you showed your ID and they looked at you and you signed it and got your money. But if somebody stole them, you were kind of lost.
Yeah.
So kind of we went off, and you know, now when you get your FaceTime and you can like talk to your parents and it's all free, we had none of that. To make a phone call, you had to plan ahead. So anyway, we had a lovely time travelling. And it did 2 things for me. It made me feel like, that's great, I can come back, I'm ready to start again. A lot of young people do that today, travel and come back, but not them days. And it was such a good thing to do. And I just recommend to anyone, go traveling, have your year, come back and settle down. So the traveling's kind of gave me this bug. And I come back and I thought, do you know what? I want to travel again, but do it long term, but we're not going to have the money. So work hard, save up. And my goal was, my only goal, 55, I want to retire. So you got to do something to make the money. So we come back, and it took me a while to get a little job. And I set my a little carpentry business up with my brother Terry. And by chance, and I think often there's a little bit of luck in a lot of things that you do, is I met one of the guys that went to university with, and he said, it was in a pub in Hammersmith. He's, Joe, I've been looking everywhere for you. And of course, we had no mobile phones in them days. And I said, well, he said, look, I've got an American company coming over from New York. They're going to build something called Canary Wharf. I want you to come and join us, come and work with us. You were great. We loved you. You've got that oomph, and we need that. And I said, no, I'm not sure about that. So what I did is I went back and thought about it, and I didn't say anything to Terry. I said, Terry, I'm going on a 2-week holiday. I'll be back. And I'll see you then, you know. So Terry carried on. I went and worked my holiday at Structure Tone, an American company, and I loved it. So after 4 weeks, literally, it was like 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, he's gone to mine. Have you seen Joe? He hasn't come back. What the hell? And I didn't know how to tell him. But what I did, I said to him, look, you take all the fans and the tools, Terry. I'm going to try something different. And the funny thing is that Terry joined Structure Tone a few years later, so it was good for him also. So I got my experience in building up a company. There was 3 of us. It's a multi-billion pound company now. But what I got from that was, look, you know, my experience in 13 years of work and getting the experience so that I could always wanted to do something myself. And one day we had this big presentation and we had this new manager that come in, and he was a guy that dressed in white suits and the big teeth. And I had been to many interviews for projects. You always have an interview before you win on a project. And he called me in and he said, I need you to do the method statement. I don't want to be able to see it on Monday morning. So I spent the weekend writing it all out. And I always come prepared, as I do now, with a few notes that you can look at. Very important to be prepared. But I handwritten it out. And I went into the office. He didn't even read it. It was suddenly a new guy I didn't even know. And he ripped it up and he said, it's too long. Go and start again. And that took a lot of confidence and everything, and especially after spending time. And I knew that I was much better than a lot of people. And I thought, you know, I'm going to go and set something up myself. It really upset me what he did, but this is what I've got to get out of this, and I've got to do it. I was in meetings, I looked at profit and loss and thinking, look at the money they make. So that's where I first got the idea. It's now time to go out and do what I want to do. And that's basically what I did. So while I was still at the company, I had a garage at home. We had moved into Delamere Road, and I had bought a big printer, and I bought one of my first computers. We had modems in them days for the internet. So it was something where you got a CD-ROM, you put it into this box, it connected to the web, but it was all beep, 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 and it was like, talk about streaming, you have no idea what streaming was. But this is how I set the business up. And what I did, it was slowly. So Terry was already starting the little project. I stayed at my company while I was doing all the background, the setting up, the meta statements, all our paperwork, because that takes time. And over 2 years, we kind of built the company ready to start. So we didn't just jump into it. We took time to prepare it. And when the time was right, I left Structure Tone, and Elevate then started. And what I did is I took, very naughtily, some good people that worked for me at Structure Tone that I knew there were people I needed. And I couldn't pay them some of the salaries they were on, but I promised them part of the company, or they would get the rewards of the company. And that one guy and stayed with us throughout the whole time, and he's done very well. He was very good. But one of the things that another reason why I kind of decided to leave is I was spending a lot of time weekends, and at Canary Wharf you had to work the Sunday because the Sabbath was the Saturday. So in many years where I worked in the office on the Saturday, the Sunday, the Sabbath, and I never seen you kids. And I just realised when I started looking at family photographs, actually it was quite a while after, I'm not in any of the photographs. And it's something that I'm going to come back to later about how much time do you spend at work and what is the right amount of time you spend at work. Because you have to work hard to build it up, but what is the right time? But I got you beautiful children now, and I go on holiday and everything with you now. So that's great. So that's kind of what sort of set me up for the business and the journey it took. Remember, I come back from a lot of poverty, but got that fire that, you know, I could earn money, and I knew I could, and I knew I could go out and just make it. But now I'm going into a different type of, I want a commercial management, project management company. We weren't builders in the way that we had bricklayers, carpenters. We were managers. We used to take the drawings, the tenders, and we would price them up, and we would take contractors on. A much safer way to do the business than having to do a lot of cash flow out, and which I'll come on to later. So that's how Structure Tone started up, Elevate started up, and that's where we are.
Wow. And so how old were you when you started that? I think you were early mid-30s maybe when you
When
started?
the company started, I was 30. So
Wow.
at that time, Katie was born. And I think we had Katie when we were 24, and then Sean when we were 26.
Yeah.
And you come a bit later, Bex, a few years later.
Yeah.
So I was I'd just gone into the 30s, but my 20s was spent building up the company to get to where I did. So, as I said, businesses take a while to start. Business take a long time before you start making profit. You've got to do your homework, and you can't expect it to happen overnight. So yes, by the time I was 30s, it's
You were
when
ready to
I was
go.
ready. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really important because especially I think in our day now with like social media or everything's just available, right? You want something, you order it on Amazon and it arrives the next day,
I love
or even
Amazon.
you love Amazon, but even sometimes the same day you can get something and it's so like instant, and we just want this constant. You start something and you want it to happen straight away, and I think that's so important to hear because it took you 10 years really to build up to even starting your business, and then another 20, however many years you worked at it, 25 years. So it's not just like an instant you had an idea and you just started your business. It's a 10-year backlog of getting prepared, building up your knowledge, knowing actually what it takes to build a business, and then starting it then when you were 30, because I think there's a lot of incredible people who are running businesses in their 20s, but there's still time. Like there is always time, even if you're 30, 40. It doesn't just have to be when you're a 21-year-old starting out.
When you set a business up, you can't, have an accountant straight away, and you can't have all your project managers straight away. And of course, I was in control of the construction side and the project management side. Profit and loss accounts, looking at bank accounts, was something that was suddenly new to me. One of the guys I took in with me, he was a surveyor, but together we had to learn about all the banking and payments and cash flow, and it was a new side of things for us. And then we had to learn how to put presentation documents together. And we did all that. I did all that myself. I didn't have anyone. My God, if you were around then, Bex, I would have been even better, because I had to put presentation documents together to make them look good. And of course, when I was at school and when I was even at Structure Stone, we didn't have computers. We didn't have mobile phones. There was no such things even as emails. We had what was called faxes, which people see fax numbers sometimes in old business, but I bet you don't even know what a fax is.
No, I do.
You do, and
Just about.
that's how we did it. And one day, as business grew, I had to learn how to do the computer. I had to learn how to put programs together, software. And even though I did a Chartered Institute building, all the exams and all your studying was in overhead projectors. There wasn't a computer in sight. And so as we built the business also, we had to train and to learn. And even now you laugh when I type, it's like two fingers sort of type of thing. The notes took me a week, not really. But so you're training. But when we set the business up, we had to learn to do all this ourselves. Checks then, there was no such thing as bank transfers. I used to spend Friday evening looking at all the payments that we had to make and the invoices and sign them off. And then I used to handwrite all the checks on a Friday evening. I was the accountant. I was the guy putting the presentations together. But as the company built, then you could afford to take them on.
Yeah.
Again, I said, take your time. Just don't rush into it.
Yeah. You've got to have that stable foundation.
Yes. I remember my first day, funny, Bex, as we built the company up and we started becoming successful, we got a lot of blue chip clients. And we started winning a lot of awards. And I said, money never motivated me. It wasn't about making money, even though you had to make the money. It was about being the best, getting blue chip clients. We ended up doing people's work like Coca-Cola, Nexon Petroleum, Great Portland. So we did all their work. And Coca-Cola used nobody else apart from, but they would only deal with me. So, I used to have to spend a lot of time as well as running the business, but getting them clients, getting longevity, getting them to trust you, not having to go out and keep finding new clients. In the construction, there's so many new projects coming, you have to tender for them, compete for them. I decided to just get the clients and to keep them and look after them. And that was a lot to do with the success. But once the business became successful, I had to take in the people that could do the social media. I remember the first, Well, once we started winning awards, somebody said you got to put it on Facebook. Instagram, I had no idea what Instagram was, and so right the way through the business, we didn't actually have that to run a company. And I think it was Katie to come in, and then Sean, and a couple of Sean's friends come in, and there was that's when they started us doing that. So you learn as you go on as to how you have to build that business in, so you can then take people in with fresh ideas to help build that business.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. That's something that Connie spoke about when she was on a few weeks ago, is learning that you have to take people on who have different skills to you and understand different things to you, and you can't do it all. But kind of letting that responsibility go is hard
to let go. Yeah. Really hard to let go. And then when you look back, when you get good people in, you think, why was I doing that all that time? And I could have been at home, because even with Elevate, I work Saturdays, Bex, as you know, and Sundays until later, in life. And because I was not paying people salaries and doing it myself, you have to let go, and you have to then eventually push that out.
Yeah, exactly. So during that time of your 20s, was there like one key moment you think that really kind of pushed you on, or something that stuck out to you within that time?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to do something with myself, and I knew even though I was earning fairly good salary, it was never going to get me retiring at 55. And the day the guy threw me that bit of paper back after spending the weekend, I said, the time is right now for me to go and to do my own thing and to start planning. And that's when I started planning from that day. And that's the thing that stands out to me as to why I eventually let go, because you're in a secure job. You got children, you're paying a mortgage. And if you remember, like at one time when we moved, when I was 24 and I had Katie and Sean, interest rates went up to 17%.
Wow.
Okay, you guys are all complaining at 5 and 6%. Okay, so now I'm thinking it's time for me to leave. When is the right time to leave? Interest rates at 17%. I got mortgaged up because I bought a lovely sort of house. Was it the right time? There is never a right time, also, I can tell you, to say, I'm going to start up by myself, and especially when you've got the children and the pressures. But the time is right. And that's why I took a couple of years to plan and did it in my office in the garage at home. So, yeah, just, luck is a lot of things as well. Something might happen to you one day to say, I want to do it myself. It's something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that really sticks out to me. But I always knew I was going to do it.
Yeah. So for somebody who might be in a position now where they want to start a business, or they just have, what would be your like top advice to them, or things that you kind of wish that you knew?
If you don't have cash, you don't have money in the bank, you're not going to make it. Okay, business that's start up now, that it takes on average, I believe it's 5 years before you start making profit. You got to plan it. You got to take your time. You can't expect results overnight. Some people do. Some companies do. You read about these companies 6 months later, they're like worth £1 million. That's a rarity. You've got to take your time and plan it. Get people, work out a business plan as to how long it's going to take you. Now you'll go to the bank and it's very hard to get business loans. You often have your own money ready. So plan it with the cash flow. If you don't have money, you will not survive. And in construction, clients often are very slow in paying. So we paid very little salaries for many years. For myself and the partners, I had 2 other partners, we took small salaries, small dividends, and left the money into the business. So the banks weren't controlling the way we were running the business. And we were very lucky that we after the first year or so, we never took a loan from the bank. We self-financed. And without digressing, we had one project that was just pure luck, where a contractor went bust. We were taken in as Elevate because they loved Elevate and we were working for them. It was a cost-plus job. And cost-plus means it's whatever it costs for the materials and all your managers, then you have a percentage. This project ended up being far bigger than what we would have ever liked to take on, but we did it. It gave us the confidence. We grew it. We made enough money on that project that we never lent a penny again from the bank. We self-financed ourselves right the way through the history of LA. We never took a loan. And that's important, but it took time. And luck is often something that will come your way if you're working hard.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that in the car on the way here, actually, when you said about luck. And it's been mentioned on the podcast before, actually, like whether you create your luck as well, because for you, that wasn't just luck. Someone walked through the door and asked you for that job. You had built up that portfolio before and all your hard work before it. And that's why they gave you the job. It's not just they just handed it to you from nothing. So I think, yes, it's luck, but you've got to build that before it, and you start building your own luck, and it comes from that, because then somebody else sees you and then they might offer you another project. But you don't just get handed it out of thin air, and luck's not like that. So yes, it was luck, maybe the way timings worked out.
Yes.
But all of your hard work was before that.
We talked actually about, just laughing, about Ollie Murs. He was following Take That a few weeks ago, and he was doing the introduction part of the show.
Yeah.
And he missed his flight. He didn't plan. And he, instead of getting the morning flight, got the afternoon one, which was delayed. So they got a local guy that with a guitar. I don't know if you know that story.
Yeah, I saw it.
He absolutely made it on social media, and now is becoming big. He prepared. He was great. He learnt. It took him forever to get where he got, but he had that one bit of luck. So sometimes that comes as well. So, you know, with I think any company that you're going to set up, you do have to have a little bit of luck with it.
Definitely.
But do the hard work first.
Yeah, and your networking as well. You were always great at keeping your contacts and having good people around you as well.
Yeah.
But with your business as well, how did you kind of deal with setbacks then? Like, you've talked a lot about successes and great jobs that you did, but you had a long career, so obviously there would have been setbacks at that time. How did you deal with that?
Well, every company is going to have setbacks, for sure. And I think once they come, you've got to then sit. And I had a great brother that was my business partner, that often he thought outside the box a little bit different to what I would. And we always relied on each other to discuss what them setbacks were. But we were lucky enough not to have too many with Elevate, because I think we all had different skill sets, and we just kind of worked around them. But most important thing is we always had a lot of cash in the bank. A setback wouldn't be the end all. And it really gave you a lot of kind of comfort to know that if something went wrong, you could still finance it. But the other thing that we did, like with setbacks, just make sure that you don't have one product. You've got to have diversity in your company. You've got to have different products. So if one suddenly stops. So we were doing computer rooms, and it was the .com era. That all then suddenly went bust and stopped. And if the whole business was just .com, we wouldn't have survived. So we were doing the project management, the office fit out, the design, the build. So have diversity. So if something does go wrong and you get setbacks, you might have to say, you know what, we're going to hold on with that part of the business. There's no point losing money on that part of the business, and it's something that's just not worth doing. Just then go and get some other diversity, something else that you're going to make it on, and then concentrate on the things that are making you money. Yeah. And the other thing that we were often had clients that would ask, could you work for us in France? Can you work for us in Paris? We were kind of making enough money in London that we didn't have to do that, because again, we know so many companies that were going outside their comfort zone. So the comfort zone that you're in, stick with it until the time is right.
No, that's interesting, because I think a lot of the time you hear now, step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Always step out. And I guess maybe it's a balance then, because you obviously did step out of your comfort zone to take the leap to start a business.
Yeah.
But then once you knew what you were good at, you kind of honed in on that, and that's where you really were able to develop it.
Well, as I said to you, don't grow too quick. The growth, make it steady. And we kind of grew. We doubled in size every year. There's no point doubling in size and halving your profits. So you've got to take that steady growth. And you know, we went from a few £100,000 at the beginning of our to we were over the 20 million, but we grew that steady. And I always said, we're not going to double our business and half our profit. We never did that. And of course, when you grow your business, you've got to buy new computers, get new staff in. Just do it slowly. You know, some people can do it quick. And it's funny, I was looking at Kazoo. Look how big they got. And they've just gone bust. And the owner of the company said, we grew too fast. Really? We grew outside our comfort zone. They started going to Europe. They started going to North. They did it too quick and outside things that were in their control. And so I look back and I just say, you go outside your comfort zone for sure, but be in control of it. And if it's not working, come back into that comfort zone.
Yeah. So with that, you kind of, I think that's so important to say, because you've got to, be good at what you're good at and know that and focus on it and learn on it before you then kind of step out, because you don't want to do it too quick.
No.
You've got the skills. And
It is lovely when the company is making money. And as I said, money never motivated me, but we started making good money and good profits. And I one day was with my nephew, Elliot, and we had been out for a couple of drinks. He was working for us. And on the way back, we went into Mercedes in Brentford. And they had this brand new CLS car. And I said, I want that. And I had enough cash that I could do that. The guy wouldn't sell it to me. He said, no, because this is our showroom car. I said, no, I want that. I ended up buying that car that afternoon. And I went back and picked it up on the Wednesday. And then I went for a meeting the next day and Thursday to Coca-Cola and to Nexen Petroleum. They were both in the same building. And I had my own car parking space. The managing director of Nexen asked who that car was next to him in the car park, thinking it was one of his staff. And when they said it was the builder, they were told to get rid of me. One of my most profitable companies, I had to go and see him and tell him that the car was on loan while my car was getting fixed, that my other car was an old Mercedes, and that they did it to me to try and get me. So that went, I turned up then my old cars. Never go show people that you're making too much money, because clients they want to see you making money and growing, but don't show them that you're making so much. I learnt a big lesson from that day, and my brother Terry actually called me stupid. Why would you anyway? Because he always went to all the meetings in one of the Elevate fans. And I was a little bit different as you got sort of making them, but I always loved new cars.
Cars was your thing. Like, even we'd always joke that you literally had holes in your shoes and holes in your clothes, but you would drive a nice car. That was the only thing you liked. But with that then, and your business, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but how did you find balancing everything, especially when the company grew and you had responsibility of paying people's wages, and you obviously had to work really hard and keep that going, but balancing life outside of work? Tell us a little bit about that.
I was terrible at balancing. I was a workaholic, and I loved working the Saturday and having the peace and the quiet in the office. It gave me time then to get ready for presentation because I was so busy during the week. I was not only the guy running the business, but I was the entertainment manager. So I used to go out on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night and sometimes a Friday night. And then catch up on the Saturday and often the Sunday. The balance was not right. I had a lot of energy, but I didn't see you guys, did I? So, you look back. The only time I actually seen you, Sean and Katie, almost through them work lives, I made you clean the office at weekends. Do you remember? Because I had the upbringing where I had to earn my money. If you wanted pocket money, I never gave it to you. You come into the office and you cleaned it. It gave me 2 hours to talk to you and have a catch up at home. My balance was bad. And when I was thinking about retirement, I then started later in life planning, because I knew when you're that busy and you're working 7 days a week and you're a workaholic, you never want to say that I wish I'd spent on your deathbed. I'd spent more time at work. I knew I wanted to do it at 55. I'd burn myself out. So I planned it. No, I had just a bad balance, but I knew that when I retired that I'd have to have a balance in life, and that's why I wanted to travel. I bought a motorhome, and the travelling and also doing maintenance on bits and pieces of properties and stuff I got, it's balanced me out now. But then I just worked. And, we worked very, very hard right the way through. I would say my recommendation, if I could do it again, was is money's not everything, and profits to get some other people in to help you. But I was of the type where I was unbalanced, and I just thought nobody can do it as good as me. Also, clients that we had, we didn't have a big portfolio of clients. We just kept the ones that we had, and they just wanted to see the Joe O'Neills, the Terry O'Neills, the Ken Smiths. But we were happy to do that. But it just meant I had to do a lot of work and do a lot of, homework in the evenings. And
I remember spending many a Saturday morning on a building site with you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We would go
Well,
up.
that's when I was babysitting. When Mary said, Joe, you got to babysit, I'm going out. I said, no problem. But I still go to work and take you with me.
Yeah.
Put the helmet on, put the high-vis vest on.
Yeah. We would go up to London, central London at like 6 a.m. and go walk around a building site.
Yeah, but you always got McDonald's, didn't you?
Yeah,
or something?
exactly. No, I used to love those days. They were great days. So, yeah, no, good memories. I think the balancing is difficult because, they're definitely, I think definitely now we spend a lot more time together in our later years than the younger years. But also then it is that balance because you wouldn't have been able to retire and enjoy the time that we have now if you hadn't have sacrificed it then. So I think it's just, it's a way of sacrifice and trying to balance that.
But you got to remember with because I was so unbalanced in what I'd done, I had to have a great partner behind me, a rock, which was Mary, and she totally understood. You know, she understood where we were coming from, and so she kind of often would talk to me about you shouldn't be doing this now and doing that. I'd often listen to her. So she was the balancing block really for me. And without her, I certainly couldn't have run the business. And it's important to know, you know, people, you know, if you've got a good partner and they're behind you, you can just get on and go and do what you've got to do if they're understanding. So, you know, I would never go anywhere without Mary, and that's always I've said that many, many times. And of course, then she had to be the one that looked after you. But I enjoyed
while still working herself. So she was a rock.
The lovely thing as well, I haven't said, is that, you know, I think all of you did some work experience, or your friends did work experience with the company, which I was always very proud of. But, you know, in the later years, Sean come and worked for me for a few years. And he was absolutely brilliant. You know, working with your dad's not easy. The hard thing is when he would call me Joe at work instead of Dad. Joe, and I'm like, who's Joe? But yeah, so I spent actually more time with you as you got older, because, you know, you come into the business and you do 6 weeks
I never
work
actually
experience.
did, because I think...
Oh yeah, but that was construction. You did never want to go into construction.
No, it was more that I did work experience with a couple of your clients, but it was more that... as I got to the age of working... In fact, you did it with Coca-Cola, didn't you? Yeah, I did. Oh, right. In year 10 work experience. But I think as you got to the time when I started to work, that was when the business was coming to an end. So I never had that period of time working apart from cleaning the office on weekends for years. So, I think now if you had it, I would be your social media manager. Yeah. I would have you a construction podcast.
You know, it's integrating. You think that, you know, when I said, you know, getting blue chip clients and, you know, keeping them, that I actually had the audacity to go to them. And I'm the builder and say, could my daughter come and do her work experience with you? Yeah, I think you really enjoyed it, didn't you?
I loved it. It was great. That's what got me into marketing and psychology, because they took me, I remember they had this big like testing room at Coca-Cola, and they would... No,
we built them. We built all the...
Oh, okay. And they would test like where to put products on the shelves, where your eye line would go to in like a bar or a pub, so that you would, without realising, maybe order a Coke, because that's what you can see at your eye level, and supermarkets and stuff like that. And then I went on to do psychology at school and a marketing degree, which was quite psychology based, and I think that's kind of what stemmed it from there.
So there we are.
There we go. So in your 20s or beyond, maybe, is there something that you think you've had to overcome? What's been the hardest thing that you've had to overcome, either with running your business or beyond in life?
I know this sounds strange, but I don't think I really had any. I've been so lucky in life, I think, because I loved what I did. There wasn't one day I went into work where I thought, I'm not enjoying this. Every project was different. Every client was different. And I loved it. And I think that kind of was just great about the work I done. And looking back, I just can't sort of see anything that was a sort of a real problem. I'm just lucky. And I know not many people can say that.
Yeah.
It's just that we were well planned. We had great people that work for us. We were always, and I keep going on about money, but we were in positive cash flow all the time. That makes such a difference. Nobody was in control of us. Even if there was clients, we picked our clients often, Bex. And that made a difference. So when we went for tenders or people would approach us, we always looked at, are they good payers?
Yeah.
You know, Coca-Cola was one of the worst payers. Oh. They were one of the biggest and the best.
Might have to cut that bit out.
Well, no, but you know what? We knew that we got so much work that maybe you had to work a week wait a week longer.
Yeah.
Others were quick payers. But if we found out there were certain clients that were bad payers, we didn't take them on. Having the client, having the work's no good if you're not getting paid.
No, exactly.
So we kind of controlled. We were just lucky we controlled. So we didn't really have that many kind of issues, if you understand. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking more so like maybe outside of work as well. Like you had a lot to balance, and I know there were different.
We did have one problem with the VAT man, and this is a true story, where they come and they audit us. We were dead scared, our first big audit, and we had an in-house sort of accounting guy, but he was so strict on what you were allowed to claim for, or no. He was OCD in that way, and when the audit come back, it come back as positive apart from one thing, and it was that the managing director, owner of the company, seems to spend too much time in the Dover Street wine bar. And this is, honest to God, what he said in letter written form. And I thought, what's it to do with him? We've paid the VAT. You can't claim VAT on entertainment.
Yeah.
But he made the comment about it, and it made me think, well, maybe I do go there too often. But, when you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s, your clients at that age, they don't want to be going to discos and stuff.
Yeah.
And after dinner, they all want to go out for further drinks. So I had a lovely table at the Dover Street Wine Bar. Spent a lot of money there, but that's how we kept a lot of clients.
No, but that's what you said. It's that networking, and I'm sure that's where I guess the balance maybe was hard as well, because you weren't just doing your 7 days a week, working crazy hours. You were having to entertain, because otherwise that next piece of work isn't coming, and you had bills to pay and people's lives to look after.
Yeah.
So you had to wine and dine and network with people.
Can I give you a little hint of what we did and what we believed in? Is if clients see you as a family person, if they see that you're genuine, there's no harm to let them know a little bit about your family. And I always done that, talk about, the children and I'd show them sort of photographs. In them days, we didn't have them on our phone and stuff. And I always brought, and because we often kept our clients, for many, many years and right the way through. And once they got to know you, not just as somebody that was business, but a little bit yourself, you can't tell them too much, but let them see that real you as well. And I always thought that really helped.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think that's a good segue onto the next part that I wanted to do.
Oh.
So I put out this week and asked some of my followers to send in any questions that they wanted to ask you. So I feel like, Dad did a lot of my marathon training with me on his bike.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I started running in Ibiza last week. So,
good.
Yeah.
There you go. Dad was at Ocean Beach. No, I'm joking. So a lot of my, people sent in questions and asked a few things. So I wanted to run through them. I thought it'd be a good little snippet. I've not done this before on the podcast of ask the guest questions, but here we go. So the first one would be, what would be your number one piece of advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?
In my day, a lot different the answer would have been as to today. And the funny thing is, we were in, just bringing in Ibiza last week. We went to various restaurants, and we went to Calabasa, which is a beach, but it's full of 20-year-olds. And the cheapest bottle of wine you could buy there was about 90 euros. Young people were there, and you think, how is there so many people here that are able to afford? And when I'm saying drinking all day, they're getting it delivered to them in service charge and stuff like that, drinking wine, drinking cocktails. And I asked Matt about this, and he said, no, what a lot of them do, they save up for the year so that they can go and get their social media page, get their followers to say, look what I'm doing. And really, they've got nothing. But to me, it was like social media seems to take over a lot of young people, and it runs your business. And so many times I look at people that are looking for likes and sending things out. That would terrify me when I was running my business, where people could comment about what you were doing and how well you're doing it. And if anything you say, they would start, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. For you young guys growing up now, it must be so stressful. I never had any of that. So I would say, if you're good at your business, don't worry about what of the comments you're getting back. Just keep going the way you believe is right.
Yeah.
And be careful what you put up.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you then things don't work out and you're going for another job and you're going for an interview, people can look at your social media. Completely.
It's like an open CV these days. People can search you very easily.
Yeah.
So I guess that's follow if there's something that you know you're good at and you believe in your work, stick with that.
Stick with that. But also, as I said, the one thing every Monday morning, I looked at the bank accounts, what invoices we had going out, what invoice payments we had coming in. Be in control of your finances.
Yeah.
I never, ever bought something that I couldn't afford. People go out and buy luxuries like cars now because they want to be seen in a car. They're buying a car that's £40,000, getting finance on it. They don't realise it's actually costing them £60,000, and often you don't even own that car. People are buying things that they can't afford. I never, even to this day, have never bought, and when I was 20, 18, 25, bought something of any luxury that I didn't want, but it was looking nice and made me look nice. I never bought it. If you can't afford it, don't buy it.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially in social media age where it's like trying to get everything out there.
You want people to see you with this and with that.
Yeah.
And there's so many jealous people out there.
Yeah.
And, it can often have a negative impact.
Yeah.
So do what's right, but don't overspend and don't get debt.
Good. No, I think that's a really important piece of advice. You've always said that cash flow in a business is like the number one important thing.
They always say in our old days, cash is king.
Yeah. So the next question is, if somebody is ambitious and they have the drive to start something or to be an entrepreneur, but they just haven't quite found that thing or their idea, what would be your advice to them?
If you believe in something, take your time. Again, make sure that you're setting the business up right. You want to get your bank account set up. You want to have your computers in place. And often you have to wait for a little bit of luck. Luck is often what so many people you talk to, they'll say, oh my God, that day when I met that person, or that day when this happened, that, and without that, it would never happen. Luck will come one day if you're ready and you believe in what you're doing. You must have belief in your product. I firmly believed in the product we sold. It made it easy because it's what we were good at what we did, and the product was good. People liked it. If you know your product's right, just wait. It will come. You have to be patient, but be ready.
Patient, but put that work in behind it.
The work behind it, you have to be ready to go, because suddenly this great idea. Because I know now you're all looking for what's going to be different out there. What's a different niche in the market? Then go for it. But if you're not ready, you're never going to be able to do it. So be ready, and one day it will happen.
And we spoke a little bit about this offline as well, and you said it's got to be something that you enjoy and that you're passionate about. So I think maybe not having that idea yet, just see what you enjoy. Look at your life and see something that you enjoy from it, whether that's fitness or, I don't know, it could be any sort of hobby or activity, and maybe start thinking about what you can do around that. It's got to be something that you're passionate in. You were always passionate about construction. I remember Nan and Grandad say, especially Grandad would say that he would come home and you would literally have taken like a TV apart because you wanted to know how it worked.
Yeah.
So you would take it apart and try put it back together. So you always had that enjoyment. So I think that is a good piece of advice for somebody as well who hasn't found that thing, is just look at what's in your life already that you enjoy and how can you start building from that. There's like a Japanese what's the right word? Like a Japanese way of life as well called ikigai. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's the 4 points. So I think it's purpose, purpose, something that you can make money from, something that the world needs, and something you enjoy, maybe. Anyway, it's a great book. There's podcasts on it. And I think that could be a good place to start for somebody listening as well, because it's finding something that you're so...
Excuse me.
It's okay. Something that you're so passionate about, but that you can make money from and brings purpose to the world too. So with the entrepreneur thing, is there any other advice that you would give to people who might be listening and, as I said, either started a business or want to get into it, or just want to do like a little side hustle or something else just to kind of...
Well, when you go back and you look at The Apprentice, the most important thing is to have a business plan when you're setting up your business and have your goals. But you've got to be flexible, because they're never going to work out, like, I want to be there here in 2 years and here in 3 years and I want to be that size. You've got to understand that it won't all happen, but you've got to have a plan in place. And you've got to have a plan B if things aren't going to plan. And over the years it's taken you to set up, things are going to change. Social media changes. What people wanted 2 years ago, they don't want now, because technology is changing so quickly. So, you've also got to have a business plan that It's going to allow for, the market changes. But I would say you just be patient, make your money, you will make it, and then live your dream. Rather than living the dream in your 20s and 25s and, borrowing all that money and looking good, and then eventually it's all going to go haywire because, you're spent money and paying interest on things that's not yours. And just balance your life in your business.
Good. I like that. So the final question from our followers are, what was it like raising daughters? So just to caveat,
oh my God,
I do have a brother as well. So you did raise a son, but this question specifically was, what was it like raising daughters?
Well, I think I was very lucky to have Mary. That, as you know, she was kind of a nursery teacher, and Mary's very balanced in life. So I think she, first of all, it was through Mary that made you guys such balance. Good people, good personalities, honest people, and I think the amount of times that she sat and chat with you and guided you through, and you guys, she's gone from being your rock to you now, you, Kate, and Sean, becoming our rock, and you're very well balanced, and now sort of seeing you sort of grown up, and Katie's got children, and your business, you're looking at doing things like these podcasts, which I love. And God, how you got the confidence to do that, and watching how professional you are at that, it gives us a lot of joy to see that. But as for children, again, as in my business, I've just been very lucky. I don't think you were ever sent home from school. Don't think you ever had homework. Katie had homework once, or detention once, and it was because the whole class got it. And she never ever got anything.
Because Mum disciplined us well.
They were just like, they were too good. Maybe we were maybe why I could carry on working. I didn't have to worry. I mean, I was never called home to go to school to see the teacher because you weren't working hard enough. So yeah, no, it was the easiest thing in the whole wide world. And I love it. I mean, now as a family how close we are. I mean, we've been to Sri Lanka together. We've been to Lombok together. We're going to America together this year. And we just love having you with there. And when we're together as a family, have we ever had an argument? Have I ever told you off? Have I ever?
I don't think so. But
I think you told me off more now.
She said
Mum
was a nursery teacher. Mum was great at keeping us in line and bringing us up to be disciplined, I think. And I think that's why we didn't cause trouble.
Yeah, but it's very. We
had that solid foundation.
Well, how many years difference is between you and Katie?
6 years.
6, and yet you're so alike. Not only look alike, but so alike and so close. And again, you could have a brother that's a year older than you, or a sister a year older than you, and they just don't get on. So, that's a little bit about that's a bit about the genes and stuff, and you're so close, and so is Sean. And a lot of that, again, is a little bit of luck because of the genes that, you're very similar. But again, just maybe, I was something to do with it because, to take you up. But going back, I just didn't want you guys to ever be in that way. And I think, I worked hard to make sure that you could go to school. You didn't have to. I mean, once I missed out, but it doesn't matter now, is, where we were so poor that we ended up, one of our local schools closed down and they had purple blazers. My mum bought the purple blazers, our ones were blue, and put the school badge on purple blazers. We just couldn't afford the blazers. I never wanted to send you to school with the wrong uniform, with wearing Sean's shoes.
Yeah.
And so I worked hard to make sure that, but there's nothing I would say that as you grew up that you wanted, but we never gave you anything. As I said, we made you work. So, very, very proud. And that, the girls, it was easy. You were easy.
Good. Well, we're coming to the end, sadly. But I just wanted to ask you 2 more questions. So do you think your kind of purpose now that you have given up work and retired has changed? Or do you feel like you need one in retirement looking back?
No, do you know what? I am very happy with, I love traveling. Unfortunately, this year, as I said, things in life change. Even when you plan,
things can change.
That things should be simple. We bought a brand new motorhome, and then COVID comes. So there's things in life that your plans are never going to go smoothly. But with that, you just change your plans. You have diversity. You just have your plan B. And now this year, instead of being in the motorhome, so we're going to America next week for 7 weeks. That's what I wanted to do, and I was lucky. I worked hard for it, and I had luck in life as well, and luck with the business. And when I sold the business, I had the best bit of luck. I sold it just before COVID, when we were at our busiest, before Brexit. So there was plenty of construction work. right after I sold the business, it became so tough.
Yeah.
But so I had a lot of luck in life as well. But, you know, I want to enjoy that now and with changes that are going to come up, you know. But no, I wouldn't change anything I'd done in my early life, in my middle life, and certainly not now.
Good. Well, that brings me on to my final question very well, which is what I ask all of my guests. So if you could go back to the beginning of your 20s, knowing everything that's happened in your life, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Oh, my goodness. Stress is so much in young people's lives now, is to find ways out and, you know, do your health, go to your gym, just stop thinking about what everyone else is thinking and putting up all them Facebook pages and things, you know, and then suddenly get on your phone. Just keep yourself fit, keep your mind going, and stop worrying about what other people think. And that social media thing, if I could change anything in life for young people, is to get rid of it.
Good. Well, that's it. We're done, Dad. Thank you so much for coming on. That was an amazing episode. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, and I very much enjoyed it. And sorry I didn't stop talking, but that's my reputation also.
Well, thank you for coming on. I think that was great advice and it will help so many people. So thank you, Dad.
Thank you,
I really
Bex.
appreciate it.
And thank you for letting me come along.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please continue to like, subscribe, share and follow us on socials. See you next week for another episode.